Your new freedom. Have you ever wondered why certain emotional patterns repeat in your life, no matter how hard you try to change them? Why you react in ways you don't always understand, or why you feel a deep sadness without being able to identify its source? The answer may lie in a very special place within you, your inner child. That child you once were still lives inside you, carrying memories, emotions, and wounds that need attention and love. And when you ignore this vulnerable part of yourself, she continues asking for help through your pain, your anxiety, your fears. In this video, you're going to discover how to heal your inner child and, in doing so, completely transform your adult life. We'll explore together what it means to reparent yourself, how to use the power of forgiveness to free yourself from the past, and how to reconnect with the pure joy that is your birthright. You'll learn practical and loving tools based on the transformative teachings of Louise Hay that will help you embrace all parts of yourself with compassion and acceptance. And stay until the end, because I'm going to share a profound exercise you can start practicing today to create a real and healing connection with your inner child. I know this journey can seem scary at first. Looking at the wounds of the past is never easy, but I promise you that on the other side of this courage is a freedom you may have never experienced. There's a version of you that is whole, authentic, and deeply at peace with herself. You deserve this healing. You deserve to live fully without the chains of the past holding you back. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and let's begin this transformation together right now. Why do you repeat? Have you ever stopped to think about why certain patterns repeat in your life? Why, even when you try to change, you find yourself stuck in the same emotional reactions, the same fears, the same insecurities? The answer may lie in a very special place within you, your inner child. According to Louise Hay, many of the difficulties we face in adult life have deep roots in childhood experiences. That child you once were still lives inside you, carrying memories, emotions, and beliefs that were formed when you were small and vulnerable. And if that child didn't receive the love, validation, and security she needed, she remains wounded, asking for attention and healing. Think of Sarah, a 35-year-old woman who always felt not enough in her relationships. She tried her hardest to please others, but never felt truly loved. When Sarah began exploring her childhood, she realized that her parents, though they loved her, were emotionally distant and critical. Little Sarah learned that she needed to be perfect to be worthy of love. This belief became a pattern in her adult life, affecting every relationship she built. Louise Hay teaches us that these childhood wounds don't disappear on their own. They need to be recognized, embraced, and healed with love and compassion. The wounded inner child carries a heavy burden: fear of abandonment, shame, guilt, repressed anger. These unprocessed emotions manifest in subtle and not so subtle ways in our adult lives. Perhaps you sabotage yourself when you're about to achieve success, or maybe you have difficulty trusting people. You might feel an inexplicable sadness or constant anxiety. All of this can be the echo of your inner child, desperately trying to be heard and loved. Louise Hay said that healing begins when we stop running from these emotions and instead turn inward with tenderness, saying, "I see you, I hear you, and I love you." Recognizing the existence of your wounded inner child is the first step toward transformation. It's not about blaming your parents or reliving traumas painfully. It's about understanding that you, as a child, interpreted the world the best way you could, and some of those interpretations created limiting beliefs. Now, as an adult, you have the power to rewrite those beliefs. You can look at that frightened child inside you and say, "I'm here now, you're safe." I love and approve of you exactly as you are. This is the essence of the inner child healing work that Louise Hay valued so much. When you begin to heal your inner child, something magical happens. You realize you no longer need to carry the weight of the past. You free yourself from self-destructive patterns and open space for love, joy, and peace. Louise Hay reminds us that healing is not a destination, but a continuous journey of self-compassion and acceptance. And this journey begins with a simple act of courage, looking within and embracing the child you were with all the love she always deserved. But how can you begin to connect with this child and understand what she truly needs from you? She's screaming. Your inner child is always communicating with you, even if you don't realize it. She speaks through your intense emotions, your inexplicable triggers, your disproportionate reactions to seemingly simple situations. When you feel that deep sadness for no apparent reason, or when a small criticism completely knocks you down, it's your inner child saying, "Hey, pay attention to me, I need you." Louise Hay teaches us that these emotional reactions aren't signs of weakness or that something's wrong with you. They're precious messages, invitations to look deeper and understand what that vulnerable part of you truly needs. Imagine Michael, a successful man who always got irritated when someone interrupted him during a conversation. He didn't understand why it bothered him so much until he began exploring his childhood. Michael realized that, as a child, his voice was never heard at home. His parents were always busy, and he learned that his opinions and feelings didn't matter. That boy inside him still carried the pain of not being seen, of not being important. When someone interrupted him, it wasn't just a matter of manners, it was a trigger that touched that old wound. Louise Hay said that when we understand the origin of our reactions, we can begin to respond with love instead of reacting from pain. Your inner child may be asking for validation, security, permission to be imperfect, or simply the certainty that she's unconditionally loved. She might be saying, "I'm afraid of being abandoned," or "I feel ashamed of who I am," or "I'm angry because I was never allowed to express what I felt." These messages can seem scary at first, but Louise Hay reminds us that recognizing them is an act of courage and self-love. When you stop and ask, "What do you need from me now?" you're creating a sacred space for healing. You're telling your inner child, "I am worthy of being heard and understood." Learning your inner child's language requires practice and patience. Start by paying attention to moments when you feel disproportionately emotional. Instead of judging yourself or trying to suppress the feeling, pause. Take a deep breath and gently ask, "How old am I in this feeling right now? What's happening inside me?" Often, you'll discover you're reliving a childhood experience. Maybe you feel like that 7-year-old girl who was ridiculed at school, or that 5-year-old boy who felt invisible. Louise Hay teaches us that by identifying these connections, we can offer our inner child exactly what she didn't receive back then: love, acceptance, and protection. The more you practice this compassionate listening, the clearer the communication becomes. You begin to notice patterns. Perhaps your inner child always appears when you're about to take a risk, whispering fears of failure. Or maybe she emerges in moments of intimacy, fearing rejection. Louise Hay said that these messages aren't obstacles, they're opportunities for deep healing. Every time you listen, validate, and respond with love, you're rewriting your inner child's story. You're showing her that now, finally, she has someone who protects, loves, and values her, yourself. And when you begin to understand these messages, a powerful question arises. How can you become the loving parent your inner child always needed? If this content is touching your heart and you're beginning to recognize your inner child's voice, I'd love for you to join this healing journey with me. Subscribe to the channel to receive more tools for transformation and self-love. And leave a like if you're feeling this deep connection. Share this video with someone who also needs to hear this message of hope. And tell me in the comments, what message from your inner child are you beginning to hear? What is she trying to tell you? Your story can inspire and help other people in this healing community. Become your mother now that you've begun to listen to your inner child. A beautiful and transformative responsibility emerges, becoming the loving parent she always needed. Louise Hay called this reparenting, the process of giving yourself the love, protection, and guidance you may not have received in childhood. It's not about replacing your real parents or denying the love they offered. It's about recognizing that, as an adult, you now have the power to fill the emotional gaps that were left behind. You can be the constant, loving, and unconditional presence your inner child always desired, and that changes everything. Think of Jennifer, who grew up in a family where emotions were seen as weakness. As a child, she learned to hide her tears and never ask for help. As an adult, Jennifer felt isolated and unable to connect deeply with others. When she discovered the concept of reparenting through Louise Hay's teachings, everything changed. Jennifer began treating herself with the tenderness she never received. When she felt sad, instead of criticizing herself, she would hug herself and say, "It's okay to feel this. I'm here with you." She became the loving mother her inner child always needed, and gradually, the walls around her heart began to crumble. Reparenting means establishing healthy boundaries, something many of us never learned. Perhaps you grew up in an environment where your boundaries were constantly violated, or where you learned that saying no was selfish. Louise Hay teaches us that establishing boundaries is an act of self-love. It's telling your inner child, "I'm going to protect you. I won't allow anyone to hurt you." This might mean saying no to commitments that drain your energy, or distancing yourself from toxic relationships. It might mean honoring your needs for rest, for fun, for creative expression. When you establish boundaries, you're saying, "I deserve respect and care." Starting with myself, reparenting also involves celebrating your achievements and offering compassion in difficult moments. Your inner child needs to hear words of encouragement, not criticism. When you make a mistake, instead of punishing yourself with harsh words, try speaking to yourself as you would to a beloved child. "It's okay, dear one. Everyone makes mistakes. You're learning and growing, and I'm proud of you for trying." Louise Hay said that the way we speak to ourselves shapes our reality. When you become your own loving mother, you replace the critical inner voice with a voice of love and acceptance. Repeat to yourself, "I love and approve of myself exactly as I am." The art of reparenting is a daily practice of small acts of love. It's preparing a nutritious meal for yourself, not out of obligation, but because you deserve to be nourished. It's creating moments of joy and play, allowing your inner child to have fun without guilt. It's validating your feelings, even when they seem irrational. It's looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, "I love you. You are enough. You are precious." Louise Hay reminds us that the more you practice this radical self-love, the more you heal the wounds of the past and create a future of peace and fulfillment. And as you become this loving presence for yourself, you discover there's a powerful tool that can accelerate this healing: forgiveness. Free yourself now. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools in the inner child healing journey, and Louise Hay dedicated much of her work to this transformative theme. But let's clarify something important. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting what happened, nor justifying behaviors that hurt you. Forgiving is releasing the emotional weight you carry. It's letting go of the bitterness and resentment that keep you trapped in the past. It's a gift you give yourself, not to the people who hurt you. When you forgive, you're telling your inner child, we don't need to carry this pain anymore. We deserve peace and freedom. Consider David's story, who grew up with an extremely critical and emotionally abusive father. For decades, David carried anger and resentment, feelings that manifested in his own inability to feel good about himself. He found himself repeating the same critical patterns his father used, both with himself and with others. When David began working with Louise Hay's principles, he realized that holding on to this anger was only poisoning his own life. His father no longer had power over him, but David continued giving that power by refusing to forgive. When he finally chose forgiveness, it wasn't easy, but it was liberating. He didn't forget what happened, but he stopped allowing it to define who he was. Louise Hay teaches us that often the people who hurt us were operating from their own unhealed wounds. Your parents, caregivers, or other important figures in your childhood probably did the best they could with the emotional tools they had. This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it offers a perspective that can soften the pain. When you understand that wounded people wound other people, you can begin to see those who hurt you with more compassion, without ceasing to validate your own pain. You can say, "What you did hurt me deeply, and I acknowledge that pain. And now, I choose to free myself from this weight." The forgiveness process begins with yourself. Often, the hardest person to forgive is you. Maybe you blame yourself for not protecting yourself, for believing certain things, or for repeating destructive patterns. Louise Hay said that self-forgiveness is essential for healing. You were a child, doing the best you could in difficult circumstances. You didn't have the tools, maturity, or power you have now. Look at that child inside you with infinite compassion and say, "I forgive you. You did nothing wrong. You deserved to be loved and protected, and it wasn't your fault." Repeat to yourself, "I forgive and release myself. I am worthy of peace and love." Forgiveness is a practice, not a one-time event. Some days you'll feel you've completely forgiven, and other days the pain may resurface. This is normal and part of the journey. Louise Hay encourages us to be patient and gentle with ourselves in this process. Every time you choose forgiveness again, you're strengthening your ability to live free from the past. You're creating space in your heart for joy, love, and new possibilities. And as you release the weight of resentment, you discover there are magical words that can nourish and strengthen your inner child in deep and lasting ways. Words that heal. Words have an extraordinary power to heal or hurt. And Louise Hay dedicated her life to teaching us how to use positive affirmations to transform our inner reality. Your inner child was shaped by the words you heard in childhood, words of love or criticism, encouragement or rejection. Those words became the inner voice you carried to this day. The good news is that you can rewrite this internal dialogue. You can replace negative messages with loving affirmations that nourish, strengthen, and heal your inner child. Each affirmation is like a gentle hug, telling the most vulnerable part of you that she is loved, valued, and enough exactly as she is. Think of Rachel, who grew up hearing she was too much, too emotional, too sensitive, too intense. Those words became a deep belief that there was something fundamentally wrong with her. As an adult, Rachel tried to diminish herself, to not take up too much space, to not bother anyone. When she discovered Louise Hay's affirmations, she began practicing daily. "I am exactly as I should be. My sensitivity is a gift. I deserve to take up space in this world." At first, these words felt strange, even false. But Rachel persisted, repeating them every morning in front of the mirror. Over time, something changed. That girl inside her who always felt like too much began to feel enough. The affirmations were rewriting decades of negative programming. Louise Hay teaches us that the most powerful affirmations are those that speak directly to your inner child's specific wounds. If you grew up feeling invisible, your affirmation might be, I am seen, I am heard, I matter. If you carry shame, try, I release shame. I am worthy of love and acceptance. If you fear abandonment, I am safe. I will never abandon myself. I am always here for myself. The secret is to repeat these affirmations with feeling, not just mechanically. Place your hand on your heart, breathe deeply, and allow the words to penetrate the deepest layers of your being. Say with conviction, I love and care for myself with infinite tenderness. The practice of affirmations works best when integrated into your daily routine. Start the day by looking at yourself in the mirror and saying something loving to yourself. During the day, when you notice self-critical thoughts, stop and consciously replace them with a positive affirmation. At night, before sleeping, thank yourself for another day of healing and growth. Louise Hay suggested writing affirmations on cards and placing them in visible places, on the bathroom mirror, on the refrigerator, on your work desk. Every time you see these words, you're reinforcing a new narrative of self-love. You're telling your inner child, repeatedly, that she is precious and loved. Affirmations aren't just pretty words. They're tools for neurological reprogramming. Every time you repeat a positive affirmation, you're creating new neural pathways, replacing old thought patterns with new ones. Louise Hay said that change may not happen overnight, but with consistency and love, it's inevitable. You may start by doubting the words, but keep saying them anyway. Over time, you'll begin to believe them, and then to live them. Repeat with me now. I am loved. I am enough. I deserve all the joy and peace that life has to offer. And as you nourish your inner child with these powerful words, there's a profound visual practice that can amplify this healing connection even more. And speaking of transformative practices, stay with me until the end of this video, because I'm going to share with you a practical and profound exercise that will help you apply everything we're learning. It's a tool that Louise Hay used and that can create real and tangible change in your relationship with your inner child. You won't want to miss this. Look in your eyes. One of the most powerful practices Louise Hay taught us is mirror work. And when applied to inner child healing, it becomes truly transformative. Looking yourself in the eyes through the mirror may seem simple, but it's one of the most difficult and profound things you can do. When you truly look at yourself without looking away, you're meeting all parts of yourself, including that vulnerable child who carries so many unprocessed emotions. Louise Hay said that the eyes are the windows to the soul. And when you look at yourself with love and acceptance, you're sending a direct message to your inner child. I see you. I accept you. I love you. Meet Maria's story, who avoided mirrors whenever possible. When she needed to look at herself, she focused only on superficial details, her hair, her makeup, but never really into her own eyes. There was a deep shame she'd carried since childhood, when she was constantly compared to her prettier sister. When Maria began practicing Louise Hay's mirror exercise, it was devastating at first. She saw in her own eyes all the pain, all the rejection, all the sadness she'd suppressed for years, but she persisted. Every day, she looked at herself in the mirror and said, Maria, I love you. You are beautiful exactly as you are. The first few times, she cried, but over time, something changed. She began to see beauty where she once saw only flaws. She began to reconnect with that girl inside her who just wanted to be seen and loved. Mirror work is especially powerful because it brings to the surface everything you've been avoiding feeling. When you look yourself in the eyes and say, "I love you," you may feel resistance, discomfort, even disbelief. This is normal. Louise Hay teaches us that this resistance is exactly what needs to be healed. Every time you look at yourself with love, despite the discomfort, you're breaking through layers of negative conditioning. You're telling your inner child that she no longer needs to hide, that she's worthy of being seen and celebrated. Try now, mentally. I look at myself with love and compassion. I am worthy of seeing myself with kindness. You can deepen this practice by talking directly to your inner child through the mirror. Look yourself in the eyes and imagine you're speaking to yourself at 5, 7, or 10 years old. Ask, "What do you need to hear today?" And then say those words out loud. Maybe it's, "You're not alone. I'm here now and I'm going to take care of you." Or, "You don't need to be perfect to be loved. I love you with all your imperfections." Louise Hay believed that this direct communication creates a healing bridge between your adult self and your inner child, allowing love to flow freely between these parts of you. The mirror can also be used to celebrate and reconnect with your inner child's joy. Try making faces, smiling, playing with your expressions. Allow yourself to be silly, spontaneous, free. When was the last time you allowed yourself to play without judgment? Louise Hay reminds us that healing doesn't always have to be serious and heavy. Your inner child wants to play, wants to laugh, wants to have fun. When you allow yourself this lightness in front of the mirror, you're saying, "It's okay to be you. It's okay to have fun. You deserve joy." And this joy, this reconnection with the lightness of being, is exactly what we're going to explore next. Joy without guilt. When was the last time you allowed yourself to feel pure joy, without guilt, without the need to produce or justify? Your inner child knows this joy intimately. It's that feeling of running barefoot in the grass, of laughing until your belly hurts, of getting completely lost in play. But at some point, many of us learn that joy needs to be earned, deserved, or that it's something frivolous and unimportant. Louise Hay teaches us that reconnecting with your inner child's joy isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's an essential part of healing, because when you allow joy to flow freely, you're telling your inner child that life isn't just about surviving, but about thriving and celebrating. Think of Thomas, a successful executive who had completely forgotten how to have fun. His childhood was marked by early responsibilities, taking care of younger siblings, working to help the family. He was never given permission to simply be a child. As an adult, Thomas was productive, but deeply unhappy. When he began working with Louise Hay's concepts, he realized his inner child was starving for joy. He started small. He bought paints and spent an afternoon painting without purpose, just for the pleasure of seeing colors blend. He went to a park and sat on a swing. At first he felt ridiculous, but then something happened. He began to laugh. That boy inside him, who never had permission to play, was finally being heard. And this simple joy began to transform his entire life. Louise Hay said that joy is our natural state, and when we don't feel it, it's because we're blocked by limiting beliefs and unhealed wounds. Your inner child knows how to access this joy. She just needs permission. Permission to be spontaneous, to be silly, to do unproductive things just because they're fun. Maybe it's dancing in the living room, singing in the shower, drawing, playing with a pet, or simply lying in the grass and watching the clouds. It doesn't matter what brings you joy. What matters is that you allow yourself to experience it without judgment. Say to yourself, "I deserve joy. I deserve to have fun. I am worthy of pleasure and lightness." Reconnecting with joy also means rediscovering what you loved as a child. Before the world told you who you should be. What were your favorite games? What made you lose track of time? Maybe you loved to draw, but stopped because someone said you weren't good enough. Maybe you loved to sing, but were ridiculed. Louise Hay encourages us to revisit these forgotten passions, not with the pressure to be perfect, but simply for the pleasure of doing. When you do this, you're healing that part of you that was silenced. You're saying, your passions matter. Your joy matters. You matter. The inner child's joy isn't just about activities. It's about a way of being in the world. It's about seeing beauty in small things, about marveling at the everyday, about laughing easily and loving deeply. Louise Hay reminds us that when you heal your inner child and reconnect with this pure joy, you're not regressing or being irresponsible. You're becoming whole. You're integrating all parts of yourself, the wise adult and the joyful child, into a complete and vibrant being. And this integration, this sense of wholeness, is what leads us to the next and final topic of our journey. You are complete. The inner child healing journey doesn't have a definitive endpoint, but there's a magical moment when you realize something fundamental has changed within you. You feel more whole, more integrated, more free. The fragmented parts of you, the wounded child, the confused teenager, the overwhelmed adult, begin to unite in harmony. Louise Hay called this living in wholeness, a state where you're no longer at war with yourself, where all your parts are recognized, loved, and honored. This wholeness doesn't mean you'll never feel pain or discomfort again, but it means you have the tools and compassion to navigate these emotions with grace and self-love. Imagine Sophie, who spent years feeling divided between who she really was and who she thought she should be. She had a respectable career, but her heart yearned for creativity. She maintained superficial relationships because she was afraid to show her true vulnerability. When Sophie began healing her inner child through Louise Hay's teachings, she realized she was living a fragmented life. Gradually, she began integrating all parts of herself. She allowed her creative child to have a voice. She honored her emotional needs. She stopped wearing masks and began living authentically. And for the first time in her life, Sophie felt complete. She was no longer trying to be someone, she simply was. Living in wholeness means accepting your entire story, the beautiful parts and the painful parts, as part of the unique fabric that is you. Louise Hay teaches us that every experience, even the most difficult ones, contributed to who you are today. When you heal your inner child, you don't erase the past, you transform it. You take those experiences of pain and transform them into wisdom, compassion, and strength. You look at your journey and say, yes, this happened, and I survived, and now I thrive. This radical acceptance of your entire story is liberating. You no longer need to hide parts of yourself or pretend certain things never happened. Repeat to yourself, I accept my entire journey. I am whole, complete, and free. The freedom that comes from inner child healing is the freedom to be authentically you. It's the freedom to express your emotions without shame, to pursue your passions without fear of judgment, to establish boundaries without guilt, to love and be loved without the barriers of the past. Louise Hay said that when you free yourself from the chains of childhood wounds, you become available for life's fullness. You can experience joy without fear of it being taken away. You can love deeply without fear of abandonment. You can fail without it defining your worth. This is true freedom, not the absence of challenges, but the presence of unshakable self-love. Living fully now means bringing your healed inner child into every moment of your life. It means making decisions not from fear and woundedness, but from love and wholeness. It means creating a life that honors who you truly are, not who you think you should be. Louise Hay reminds us that you've always had within you everything you needed to heal and thrive. The inner child you've been nurturing, listening to, and loving throughout this journey isn't separate from you. She is you. And when you embrace her completely, when you live from this place of wholeness and self-love, you discover that life becomes an experience of joy, purpose, and deep peace. You're finally home within yourself. Love letter to you, now that you've traveled through this journey of understanding and healing. The moment has come to put into practice everything we've learned. This exercise is simple but profoundly transformative, and Louise Hay recommended it as one of the most powerful ways to establish a loving connection with your inner child. Find a quiet place where you can be alone for about 20 to 30 minutes without interruptions. Get paper and pen. Yes, writing by hand is important, as it creates a deeper and more intimate connection. Take a few deep breaths, place your hand on your heart, and allow yourself to feel the presence of that child within you. Now, write a letter to your inner child. Begin with "Dear," your name, and write as if you were speaking to yourself as a child. In this letter, tell her everything she always needed to hear. Tell her that you see her, that you hear her, that you love her unconditionally. Apologize for having ignored or neglected her for so long. Promise her that you'll be present from now on, that you'll protect and care for her. Tell her that she is enough, that she is loved, that she deserves all the joy in the world. Be specific. If you know of particular moments when your inner child was hurt, acknowledge those moments in the letter. Say, "I know you felt alone when that happened, and I'm sorry, but I'm here now, and you'll never be alone again." Allow emotions to flow as you write. If you cry, that's okay. These tears are part of the healing. After finishing the letter, read it out loud, preferably in front of a mirror, looking into your own eyes. Allow the words to penetrate deeply into your heart. You can keep this letter in a special place and reread it whenever your inner child needs comfort and a reminder that she's loved. And if you feel like it, write letters regularly. This can become an ongoing practice of self-love and healing. Louise Hay said that every word of love you offer yourself is a seed of transformation that will blossom in your life in unimaginable ways. Your new freedom, the inner child healing journey, is one of the most courageous and loving things you can do for yourself. Throughout this video, you've discovered that that child inside you no longer needs to carry the pain alone, because now you're present, offering the love, protection, and validation she always deserved. Remember, healing doesn't happen all at once, but in layers, with gentleness and patience. Every small act of self-love, every affirmation whispered to the mirror, every moment when you choose to treat yourself with compassion instead of criticism, is rewriting your life's story. You're becoming whole, free, and authentically you. Practice the exercise I shared. Write that love letter and allow your inner child to know that finally she's home in your own loving arms. You are worthy of all the joy, peace, and love that life has to offer. Embrace this truth with all your heart